WrestleMania Night 2 has come and gone, closing this chapter in wrestling history, and boy was it interesting. I'm Omar with Real Take Sports, and here's what went down at WrestleMania 37 Night 2. We kick off with Randy Orton taking on The Fiend. Now, a lot of people expected this early on to be a Firefly Funhouse match. Many people thought, how are you going to put The Fiend and Randy Orton in a singles match? Well, they did, and we started off with Randy Orton coming down to the ring very slow and methodical, making sure that people knew he was not intimidated by The Fiend. He was not scared of The Fiend. That was a big point of emphasis. But The Fiend, when he made his entrance, we saw a hallway fill up with smoke with a burnt, decrepit Fiend walking through it, and then flames engulfed The Fiend, and he reappeared as the regular Fiend. No more burnt mask. Actually, I think he had a new mask which made his smile even bigger, which is still freaking scary. But the old Fiend reappeared with Alexa Bliss at his side. And we also saw him appear out of a Jack-in-the-Box. Yes, a giant Jack-in-the-Box about double the size of Alexa Bliss, where she had to crank it up, and the Fiend popped out of it, attacking Randy Orton to start the matchup. And Randy Orton, quick flurries of offense, nothing would happen to the Fiend. We saw Randy Orton do three of his patented DDTs to the Fiend, and nothing fazed him. The Fiend would just get up every single time, and just when it looked like the Fiend was about to wrap it up, just when it looks like he's about to lay the Sister Abigail on to Randy Orton, Alexa Bliss comes out of the box, the big Jack-in-the-Box. It's still there. She comes out with a black crown, a black dress, all black on her eyes, and then the black goo that running down her face from the same one that Randy Orton has had coming from his mouth for the past few weeks. It distracts the Fiend, and it allows Randy Orton to hit the Fiend with an RKO, and the 1-2-3, Randy Orton wins. Not gonna lie, was not the outcome I was expecting. Honestly, quite disappointing. I never thought the Fiend should have been in a singles match like this at this stage at WrestleMania, but apparently they're doing something with Alexa Bliss. A lot of fans were upset about it, myself included, but let's see where they go with this. Up next, they had Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler defending their women's tag team championships against the team of Natalya and Tamina. And now the story of this match was actually built a lot around Tamina. Tamina was the big star actually of this match. She took a lot of the offense, she did a lot of the offense, and she was actually over with the crowd. The crowd were chanting Tamina several times throughout the night, but the person who ended up with the victory was Shayna Baszler. As Natalya had the sharpshooter locked in on Nia Jax, we saw Shayna Baszler come out of nowhere, put Natalya in a sleeper hold, and put the former women's champion to sleep, ending the match. It was a great visual, as you could see the passion, you could see the veracity on the face of Shayna Baszler as she's putting Natalya to sleep. It was a good match, better than what some people expected. I know that last night the Turmoil match was not as well received as it probably should have been, but then again, some of the teams that were in there, but this match was definitely better than those. Up next, we had KO Mania 5. The Mega Powers collide. Kevin Owens taking on Sami Zayn with Logan Paul in his corner, but Logan Paul wasn't really in his corner. He was just kind of at commentary. Not even at commentary. He was just sitting next to commentary, just kind of in his chair, lackadaisically, not doing nothing. Heat missile. The fans hated Logan Paul. There were multiple times they were chanting Logan sucks when he wasn't even in the ring. But anyway, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens had a pretty good matchup. Kind of boring at some stints, but again, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens have this chemistry. At one point in the match, Sami Zayn hits Kevin Owens with a haluva kick. KO is in his arms. Sami says one more time, puts him up, sets him up for another haluva kick, misses it, and then Kevin Owens ends up hitting Sami Zayn with the stunner. 1-2-3. Kevin Owens wins. The conspiracy continued, and then Logan Paul got in the ring and congratulated Kevin Owens, shunning Sami, and Sami ends up yelling at him. Logan pushes Sami Zayn away and then extends his hand out to Kevin Owens, to which Kevin Owens responded with a stunner. One of the biggest pops of the night, seeing Logan Paul get stunned. I popped on my live stream. Yeah, I don't think anyone likes Logan Paul. Up next, we had Sheamus taking on Matt Riddle for Matt Riddle's U.S. title. It was a great backstage segment with Matt Riddle meeting up with the Great Khali and RVD, the whole effing bros. That was great. He tried to hype him up, but this match was honestly Sheamus's match. Sheamus put on a good clinic here. Riddle and him have a bit of chemistry. Look for this feud to probably continue. It ended when Sheamus did a brogue kick that actually busted Matt Riddle's mouth open, and you could see the blood gushing from his mouth. It was actually a pretty interesting sight, if I may say so myself. But good match. These two have chemistry. Sheamus hit him with a brogue kick. 1, 2, 3. Matt Riddle lost. Sheamus is your new United States champion. Up next, we have the Nigerian drum fight between Big E, the Intercontinental champion, and the new and improved Apollo Crews. And I'm telling you, this was a lot better than people gave it credit for. I think these two went out there. They didn't have as good a match as they started to have at Fastlane, but you could see the chemistry was there. And, you know, they used some weapons. It was cool. But again, this was kind of a little bit of an off night compared to last night especially. But I think the most interesting spot by far when Big E has Apollo Crews, hits him with a big ending, about to do the 1, 2, 3, and then we see a 7-foot giant, apparently Smackdown 7-foot giant, because Raw has Amos, but a 7-foot giant come in, do a Samoan spike to Big E, putting him out, and then a choke slam. Then Apollo Crews was able to pick up the victory. 1, 2, 3. We have a new Intercontinental champion, Apollo Crews, and apparently his new heater, a big 7-foot monster who I don't even know who it is. I've not had time to research it. We'll do that before Tuesday's show, but gonna be interesting to see what happens next. Now we have the penultimate main event for the WWE Raw Women's Championship. It was the defending champion Asuka taking on Rhea Ripley. Now this was a belter of a match. I loved it. They both really, I think, hurt each other at some points. Asuka and Rhea Ripley seem to have, again, a very, very good match. Rhea Ripley multiple times punching Asuka, was hitting her in the face with her knee. And those knee strikes were the story of the match. Both women were hitting each other with big knee strikes. Rhea Ripley ended up picking up the win and became the new WWE Raw Women's Champion, essentially avenging her loss from last year. While for Asuka, it's kind of back to the basics, back to the beginning. And finally, the main event of WrestleMania 37. The reigning, defending, undisputed WWE Universal Heavyweight Champion Roman Reigns defended his title against the greatest underdog in wrestling history, Daniel Bryan, and the rated R superstar, the man who won the Royal Rumble from number 1 to earn his spot in this match, Edge. First of all, Daniel Bryan and Edge both got huge pop. Roman Reigns also got a big ovation in the beginning. And it was a mixed one, but you could tell it was different. It's not the straight boos because, oh, we hate you, Roman. It's the boos, this is like reaction you're supposed to be getting, Roman. But this was a big fight feel, and boy, did it deliver. This was by far the match of the weekend for me. It started off with plunder to the outside. All three competitors go to the outside, and then Jey Uso got involved. Jey Uso super kicking both Daniel Bryan and Edge, taking them out at certain points, with Roman Reigns looking like he's about to dominate. Then Edge took out Jey Uso by DDTing him on the steel steps. And this was a match that had different spurts. We saw each competitor, each grouping of competitor rather, kind of face each other. All the pairs, Daniel Bryan and Edge, Daniel Bryan, Roman Reigns and Edge. We saw all these different matchups in these different spurts. 22 minutes of just awesomeness. At one point, we saw Daniel Bryan get caught in a suicide dive and then getting thrown powerbomb through a table on the outside. Right as he's on the outside, we see Roman Reigns and Edge go at it. Edge locking in the crossface, Daniel Bryan's move on Roman Reigns with Daniel Bryan on the outside, and just as Roman Reigns is about to tap, Daniel Bryan comes in, stops the hand from going down, stops the hand from hitting the mat, and then he locks in his label lock. So Roman Reigns is literally at the mercy of these two. Edge has him on the crossface on one hand, and then Daniel Bryan has him on the crossface on the other. He's in debilitating pain. And finally, we get Edge getting the upper hand on his opponents, bringing two chairs in to do concertos on both opponents, and he hits the concerto on Bryan, rendering him helpless. And then he goes to do it on Reigns, but Jey Uso makes his return. Jey Uso attacks Edge, putting him in a position where Roman Reigns is able to hit the spear, concerto of his own, Roman Reigns takes Edge over, puts him on top of Daniel Bryan, and then goes for the pin on both competitors. 1, 2, 3. Roman Reigns is still the reigning, defending, undisputed WWE Universal Heavyweight Champion. This was a great match. You know, tonight was probably not as good as last night, but I think that the main event was honestly well worth it. I cannot wait to review this on Tuesday. We're going to do a full review on Tuesday on Real Take Wrestle Talk live here on the YouTube channel at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already to get that. And remember, keep it real.